Two faculty members are injured at a shooting in a Denver high school. The suspect is found dead later on by a self-inflicted gunshot wound, and it doesn't fit the narrative, so we don't hear a whole lot more about this. But we'll talk about what we have heard about this, what they are trying to push on the narrative, and where we're trying to go with this. In other news, Alvin Bragg refuses a congressional subpoena, which is weird because I thought that was the most evil thing that you could do, or at least it must have to do with something with the letter after your name. But we'll be talking about that and what's happening in the latest saga of the Trump arrest. That's not going to happen. Carrie Lake has won one of her election appeals, this time on signature verification. And the mainstream legacy press focuses on all of the ones that she didn't win, but we'll be talking about that and what that means and where we go from there. And Kyrsten Sinema takes some time to dish on Democrats, saying that the caucus meetings are nothing but old dudes eating Jell-O. It is going to be all this and more. I was the one who was flying the balloons. I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Contemporary. My name is Jay Edgar, and this is your evening news. And we've got a fair amount to go over here today. But, as usual on Thursday, and I'm getting so bad at this, the actual vast majority of what it is that I have on the board again today is, things that I like and things that I hate. Which, it's not the majority of the things that I have on the board, but it's a good chunk. And, the show would probably be a lot shorter. There'd probably be a lot less tabs up there, but I gathered this stuff throughout the week, and I'm like, I want to put this on things I like and things that I hate. This is something I like. This is something I hate. And we've got plenty of it here today as well. So we'll have some fun at the end of the show. A lot of it isn't really news-related, like politics-related. It's all coming from news sites, obviously. But a lot of it more is coming from culture and entertainment, including a selection, and I'll let you decide where it lands about one of the few movies that I've seen, and actually a movie that, as a guy, I know I'm not supposed to have enjoyed, but a movie that I actually enjoyed. Mean Girls is in the news for this week here, and we'll be talking about that on things that I like and things that I hate tonight on Contemporary. Before we get started, make sure you guys go check out great programming such as The Daily Ignoramus, The Breakdown with Breckenhoff, The R-Rated Conservative, The Porch Boys. Go check out Tweets by Brit, Mr. Behavior, The No Gimmicks Podcast, and more, as we bring you a better news experience from the common man for the common man. That is right. For so long, we have got all of our news, culture, politics, religion, music, video games, etc. from people who hate us, who are nothing like us, and a lot of times from people who wear suits or are funded by people who wear suits that cost more than our houses. No more. Look better, look more for a culture experience that is from the common man for the common man. That's right, from people who have had to make the same exact decisions that you have had to somewhere in life before. Go check out all that great programming, a better news experience, more tailored to things that are important to you. And with that, we're going to get started. Reminders as well. If you're coming in and checking this out and you are not in the Discord, you are not being a full part of the conversation, go check out the Discord. It is linked in the description on DLive and YouTube, and if we get some Twitch conversation going, it'll start flowing in the chat over on the Twitch side. Links for you to come in and join our Discord, come in and join the conversation. You can put in links for me to go and explore. I don't use every link, but I do explore every single link that you guys put in to decide whether or not it's newsworthy. So you can go and join that. That's always a fantastic time. And if you are on the Instagram side, remember, any video that we watch, you are not going to be able to see. You'll just kind of see me sitting here like this. And those of you on the main channels, by the way, you're seeing the same thing as they would be seeing on Instagram, except for the fact that it's in 16:9 instead of 9:16. But yeah, you don't get to see the videos, you don't get to hear the music over the top, and you don't get to see the images. If you're watching this on Instagram, if you're watching this on a replay or something, there's a link in the description, because all the news stories that I read on the main channels are always put up on the screen for you to follow along, read along, and if you see a typo or something that you want to go into, you can go back and check that out. So you can go and do that as well. Link is in the description for the YouTube, at which point you can also get to the DLive, the Twitch, and a host of other platforms. But with that, let's get down into the news. Looks like I already see some Sully Blue in here, so that's cool. I don't see Sully Blue all the time, but when he's here, he makes an entrance. So thank you, Sully Blue, for coming in and joining us over there on the DLive side. DLive.tv/edsblog Twitter. And let's get down into the news and get started for the day. We're going to start with the Dow, as we always do. Looking at the Dow, I mean, it was a rough and choppy day. It looked like it was doing good throughout the day, but it sort of fell off at the end, and it did spike right at the very, very end, coming back above the previous close to end the day at 32,105.25. That is up 75.14 points, or about 0.25% on the day. So some good news for those of you investing on the Dow. Well, Sully, there are some things that are changing too. And by the way, one of the things that I did change while doing a night show is that since I don't have to go running off to work, I do pay more attention to the chat. We do still have a dedicated live chat segment, but that is on Monday nights now, not Friday nights, because, well, in this particular time slot, Friday night is the night that everybody's going off and having fun and doing volleyball and dates and barbecues and stuff like that. So we moved it to Monday night with summer approaching. However, something may have changed today, and we might be going back to the morning time slot. Details to come. Looking at your Bitcoin, the Bitcoin is sitting at 28,292.10 after taking a rough day throughout the day before making a major spike in the middle of regular trading in the United States markets. Bitcoin at 28,292.10. That is up $968 and 10 US cents, or 3.5% on the day. So it's coming back. It's looking like it's doing very well. We'll see what's happening with that. Looking in at the gas prices in Madison, Wisconsin, the same market that we continue to watch, we see another 314, another 309. The quick trips are remaining mostly at 330 with one 316 outlier. Out on the west side, we've got a 326. More quick trips out here. We're not seeing all the quick trips we usually do. In fact, I'm not seeing anything out on the west side right now for quick trips. So, oh, there's a 330 right there after we zoom in. So a little bit of reprieve coming from the non-quick trip stations. We'll see if they catch up with the ones that are not affiliated with them and see what they're doing with that. But that is what we see coming off the gas prices today. Let's see what IBD has to say. Or apparently not, because, well, they paywalled this article, so we'll come off of this one. But we do still have the layoffs report from NPR. NPR reporting on their own layoffs today, and I had to make the decision. There were a couple other layoffs that we could talk about today, but this is the one, especially given the fact that it came from NPR. NPR cancels 4 podcasts amid major layoffs, from David Folkenflik and Mary Yang, and all that I can sit here and say before I tell you that NPR is struggling, and you have to hit that donate button, because it's not your money, comrade, it's our money. It is, ha, 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 ha. Now, I will admit that I have taken, I don't know why I'm keeping doing this in NPR voice, but I have taken a viewership hit from being in this time slot right now. But I will tell you right off the bat, I am not having, by comparison, anywhere near the problems that NPR is having. So, by a sheer percentage-wise number, I am still winning. And I'm going to take that to the bank. But let's see what NPR has to say about themselves and their own layoffs. NPR moved this week to cut 10% of its staff and stop production of a trio of acclaimed seasonal podcasts. Invisibilia, Louder Than a Riot, and Rough Translation, as it seeks to close a yawning budget gap that stands in excess of $30 million. That's right, hit that donate button because it's not your money, comrade, it's our money, and they can't afford on regular taxpayer subsidies to tell you how to hate Republicans unless you hit that donate button. Oh, you guys suck. The network also canceled a comedy podcast. Oh, sign up for the daily newsletter. That might come with another donation. Unveiled just a year ago called Everyone and Their Mom, which sounds like a joke that I would make. You know, your mom listens to NPR. A spin-off of the mainstream radio program, Wait, Don't Tell Me. We are literally fighting to secure the future of NPR at this very moment by restructuring our cost structure. It's that important, NPR Chief Executive John Lansing said in an interview. It's existential. Lansing said the network sought to protect its core public service mission of journalism, while preserving what he calls the North Star. Since joining NPR 4 years ago, Lansing has pushed to ensure that the network has bigger and broader audience base, rooted in younger and more diverse listeners, readers and consumers who will serve as the next generation of NPR supporters, and of course, when they say more diverse listeners, they mean diversity of skin color, of hair texture, of gender and gender identity. Not diversity of thought. A number of longtime NPR staffers have chosen to leave. Some familiar voices are among them, including senior European correspondent Silvia Poglioli, who has been with NPR for 41 years. The network has not made any specific announcements, however, choosing instead to let those departing decide how to share the news. The layoffs also affect people who work behind the scenes to produce the shows and podcasts, design visual elements for the web, conduct audience research, and do the myriad of other functions required of a major news network. National Public Media, NPR's ad services arm, joined jointly with PBS and WGBH in Boston, which we'll be talking about Boston at the end of the show, is not included in the round of layoffs because it went through its own downsizing earlier this year, Lansing said. Yeah, apparently a radio host in Boston made a racist with a word that nobody's ever heard of before. That's on things that I like and things that I hate. So, ha 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 ha, NPR. Ha 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 ha. Okay, we're done laughing at NPR. Alright, public service announcement before we get started into the main news of the day. If you're using contacts or any other eye care products, do keep in mind that there's some danger out there. From the Daily Wire, CDC issues alert after 3 people die, 4 have eyeballs removed after using eye drops. From Hank Berrien. Wanted to put this up on the top of the show for everybody who's looking here. 3 people have died and 4 people have had eyeballs removed after using eye drops linked to a drug-resistant bacterial disease. This week, the CDC issued an update in the wake of 4 eye drops recalled by the manufacturers, 2 of which have been directly linked to Pseudomonas I'm going to butcher this pronunciation, aeruginosa, Ezricare, artificial tears, and Delsym Pharma's artificial tears. 8 other cases of vision loss have been reported. And I want everybody who watches this program to keep their vision so they can keep watching, of course. The CDC issued a recommendation to healthcare providers on February 1st saying, immediately discontinue using Ezricare artificial tears pending additional guidance from the CDC and the FDA. Advise patients who use Ezricare artificial tears to monitor for signs and symptoms of infection. Perform culture and antimicrobial susceptibility testing when clinically indicated. The same day, Ezricare issued a statement that they had first received notice of the CDC's ongoing investigation into a multi-state cluster of Pseudomonas aeruginosa infections in January 20th, 2023. As of today, we are not fully aware of any testing that definitively links the Pseudomonas aeruginosa outbreak to EzriCare artificial tears. Nonetheless, we immediately took actions to stop any further distribution or sale of EzriCare artificial tears. So, if you are using eye drops of any type, go check and see if there is an open recall for your eye drops. If it's over the counter, obviously your doctor will inform you if there's something coming in for something prescribed, or he should at least. But go and check that now. And even if it's not one of the brands that's listed here, do go out and check your individual brand. Go check and see if there's something there, because again, want only the best for you guys. I want to make sure everybody knows about this and can make the necessary adjustments as needed. So that's what we have for that. All right, let's get into the main news of the day. From CBS 11 to start with, 2 faculty members injured in shooting at Denver High School. Suspect found dead in Park County. From Lindsay Grew. A Denver High School student shot 2 school deans during a pat-down on campus Wednesday, according to police. This particular student actually had a safety plan that was in place where they were able to be searched at the beginning of the school every day, said Denver Police Chief Ron Thomas. They had been searched previously to today and never had a weapon on them before. However, today during that search, which took place away from other students, away from other school staff, they produced a weapon and fired shots. The shooting happened in the area of the office, Thomas added. Both deans were injured and rushed to the hospital. For an unrelated situation, paramedics were in the building when the shooting occurred, and they were able to immediately administer support and treatment to the individuals who were wounded, and I think will play a huge role in their ultimate recovery, said Denver Mayor Michael Hancock. We want to thank our first responders, EMTs, our firefighters, and certainly our police department, who were on the scene within minutes, they said. The student fled the campus, possibly still armed, though the name was initially withheld due to his age. Police later released his name due to the threat he posed. He was identified as 17-year-old Austin Lyle. Authorities believe Lyle was traveling on Highway 285, and law enforcement agencies along the route were on high alert, according to an 11 News law enforcement source close to the situation. Hours later, the suspect's vehicle was found in the woods near the town of Bailey in Park County. Multiple agencies responded to the small community, including the Denver Police Department, Jefferson County Sheriff's Office, FBI, and ATF. After approaching the car and finding it empty, a body was found about 0.2 of a mile away. The Park County Coroner's Office confirmed early Thursday morning that Lyle was the deceased. People should feel relieved that we came up here and solved the problem and we don't have to wait until tomorrow morning. Over the next few days, said Park County Sheriff Tom McGraw during a news conference on Wednesday night. An autopsy will determine the cause and manner of death. The victims of the shooting have identified as Gerald Mason and Eric Sinclair. At last report Wednesday night, Mason was back home doing well while Sinclair remained hospitalized in serious condition. Jared Polis released a statement on the shooting Wednesday afternoon. We are closely monitoring this tragic situation. We know that the 2 victims have been hospitalized, and we pray for their health and swift recovery. Our students should and must be able to attend school without fear of their safety. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Their parents deserve the peace of mind their children are safe in classrooms, and teachers should be able to work safely and without harm. We also reflect that today is the anniversary of the Boulder King Supers shooting. We appreciate the quick action taken by East High School faculty and staff to secure the school and make sure students were safe, and this is an ongoing situation. And state troopers in the Colorado Bureau of Investigations are supporting local law enforcement in responding to this tragedy. CBS Denver is reporting that 10 guns have been confiscated from students in Denver schools between the start of the school year and February. That seems excessive. Hancock pledged to do more to address the safety of the schools. Now, here's a question. Were the guns confiscated because people felt so terrified because of the student that they may have needed to, they felt the need to defend themselves? Were they intending to go perpetrate something? Is there something? 10 guns in a school? where everybody knows that it's a gun-free zone seems excessive to me. It really does. To the parents, I want to share with you that I've had a chance to talk to a couple of them who are here, obviously, and they're frustrated. They're angry, as they should be. Those of us who are parents and who have young people in this building, we certainly understand their frustration and their pain. Faculty and staff are concerned we must continue to work on addressing safety in our school buildings and in our city in general. And we will. We've never stopped with that. The police department had been working to have a presence outside this building for quite some time. I think it's clear we don't now that we need to do even more. Denver police coming out saying, update, Chief Thomas and other school city officials are providing an update regarding the shooting at East High School. Update, your Denver Police Department continues working in conjunction with local, state, and federal law enforcement partners to locate the suspect from today's shooting at Denver East High School. Due to the public safety concern he poses, the department is identifying as a minor, which is out of the ordinary. On Wednesday, March 22nd, 2023, at approximately 9:50 a.m., officers responded to 1600 North City Park, Esplanade, in the city and county of Denver, on a report of a shooting. Upon arrival, officers located 2 victims that had been shot. The offender has been identified as 17-year-old Austin Lyle, who's described as a black male, 5'5", 150 pounds, with black hair and brown eyes, and was last seen wearing a green hoodie. He is believed to be associated with a 2005 red Volvo XC90 with a Colorado license. Not something that I need to read out loud because he has been apprehended. Austin Lyle is currently wanted for the charge of attempted homicide. Apprehended. He's dead. Never mind. Do not attempt to contact this person or vehicle. If seen, please call 911 or Metro Denver Crime Stoppers at 720-913-7867. And this was going throughout the day yesterday. In fact, I'm a little bit surprised that this didn't cross my radar at all yesterday. I didn't even know about this until Mr. Scott had said something. I had no idea until Mr. Scott had said something. But it's interesting that, like in any other situation, with a gun going off in a school, even in an inner city school, especially in Denver of all places, that this would have been top story news, flashed across the TV everywhere, constantly, headlines, alerts, even for days after he shot himself. If, by the way, that's what happens sometimes, especially given the fact that these stories pop up at the most convenient times. I do wonder if this was a fall guy of sorts who was either put up to doing this and then killed before he could talk, or if he actually did suffer the frustration and the depression of having committed a murder and took his own life. But regardless, the community is safe. For now. Well, it's Denver. It's not completely safe, but the community is as safe as it can be. The suspect is no longer in the picture as of now, so while there's still going to be investigations into what's going on here, for the most part, we can come back and say that this is probably, with the information presented, closed. Some background on this. Denver school shooting suspect brought weapons to previous schools, sources say, from Emily Shapiro, Meredith DeLiso, and Jeffrey Cook. A student who was required to be patted down at the start of each day was allegedly shot and wounded. 2 admins at East High School in Denver, authorities said. Lyle allegedly shot the admins as they patted him down in the school's office area, which officials said is away from other students and staff. The injured faculty members were both hospitalized. Eric Sinclair remains in serious condition, and Gerald Mason has since been released. We know that. The suspect's daily searches were part of a safety plan that was the result of previous behavior, officials said at a Wednesday news conference, which, by the way, and I don't condone this if this is what happened, But one thing that I do want to point out the fact is that with this gentleman being ostracized and singled out, I do sit back and wonder if this is a big part of the reason that he was targeted, or why he snapped, I guess. Not why he was targeted, but because he was singled out and targeted. I mean, you guys know how kids are. Kids are assholes. They're first learning what what's acceptable, what's not acceptable, and what's going to push people to the edge, and what they'll get in trouble for. So I'm sure that seeing this guy going out and getting patted down every day, and under the assumption, by the way, probably that he didn't have a weapon because he was being patted down, that they could say all kinds of stupid shit to him, and there was nothing that he could do. Because I mean, how is a guy that's getting patted down every day going to sneak something into the school? Bet you a lot of them are rethinking that at this point. I don't know if that's, and even if that is the reason that he snapped off like that, I don't condone it. But I do have to wonder if that's the reason, if that's what happened there. I don't know. Many of us will never know, but something to watch. Let's see. Last year, Lyle was expelled from Overland High School in Aurora for allegedly violating school policy. A spokesperson for the Cherry Creek School District told ABC News. Law enforcement sources told ABC that in 2021, Lyle was charged with possession of a dangerous weapon. It is unclear if the same incident that led to his dismissal from Overland High School, but sources told ABC News that school leadership described Lyle to police as potentially violent and a threat to the safety of the school after a series of events in the 2021-2022 school year, including bringing a weapon to Overland High School prior to his dismissal. So it's definitely something to ask about, to think about. From KSTP.com, probably the most obvious headline in the history of headlines. Scared to go back to school, Denver shooting stokes backlash. No shit, Sherlock. From Colleen Slevin, Jesse Bedane, Thomas Piepert, Matthew Brown, and the Associated Press. Outraged Denver students and parents demanded a better school security and pushed for tighter firearm controls on Thursday, a day after a 17-year-old student shot and wounded 2 administrators at a city high school that's been beset with violence. Hundreds of students rallied at Colorado Capitol to push gun reform legislation because they think, for whatever reason, that if nobody can legally have one of them, then nobody will have them, which is just insanity to me. I still don't understand where people get that idea. While school board members met privately to discuss security, and the district superintendent abruptly reversed a policy banning armed officers from schools. Educators for decades have grappled with how to keep students safe as violence intensifies, and the shooting in East High School near downtown Denver stoked an immediate backlash among parents who said security was too lax. An uproar echoed community outrage after the other school shootings from last year's unchecked rampage by a gunman in Uvalde who killed 19 and 2 adults, 2 January shooting of a Virginia teacher by a 6-year-old student. The tragedies underscore a chronic problem keeping guns out of schools even as they proliferate in the community. Well, I don't know, you can mail order a Thompson in the 40s and nobody shot up a school. We're scared to go to school, East High School sophomore Anna Hayes said during Thursday's rally at the Capitol. We want to have these legislators look us in the eyes and tell us they won't pass gun legislation. They won't pass gun legislation. I can tell you that right off the bat. They won't pass gun legislation. Sorry, I'm shaking a little bit of a cold. Like, yesterday I was completely wiped out because it was all in my sinuses. It kind of settled in the back of my throat. So there's going to be a little bit of throat clearing today. As Wednesday's shooting unfolded, Hay heard sirens from emergency vehicles and had a sinking realization the danger was real. Watching your friends with the fear in their eyes, it's the worst feeling in the world, she said. All right, I want to talk about this for just a moment. So, what What did we do differently? What do you do differently? Answer me this. This is a student who was, for security reasons, being stopped every time he entered the school building to be checked for a weapon. And by the way, there was no mass shooting involved. The only two people who were involved in the victimization process were people who dedicated their lives to enriching and protecting students. And they both survived, too, I might add. But and this is the thing. When you come into any form of authority, and having had management offered to me at some point, but even having looked at possibly being a teacher, and in other cases, like I was planning on running for the Senate seat in my state because I think Tammy Baldwin sucks. Actually, I thought about running against Ron Johnson at one point too, because I think he sucks as well. But in any sort of authority position, if you're a good person at all, one of the things that you look at is the fact that you want to protect the people who are under your charge, as these teachers did. They were going through to do the pat-down as civilians, meaning that if something did go wrong, they were intent to be the people who would take the brunt of the hit, not the students. With the exception, again, of taking guns away from the law-abiding and then trying to explain to me, without being successful, how that's going to keep the non-law-abiding from getting them. With the exception of taking protection away from the law-abiding, I need you to explain to me what more security that you wanted. Other than somebody stopping this person every day coming in. Do you want it to be a police officer? Do you want everybody else to be in this? Because the school district here identified a problem, and we're taking measures to try to mitigate it. But also, now for Colorado, as much as I am against gun control, I can see where they might have a grievance, because I'm going to ask the question, Colorado, do you guys have something in the water up there? Kind of wish Mr. Scott was here at this point so we could ask him the question, but I mean, is there something you guys need to talk about? Do we have to have a conversation? Because this keeps happening in Colorado, in deep, deep blue Colorado. In deep blue Colorado, we keep getting these shootings over and over again. Now, they happen in other places. Texas is actually, surprisingly, a very, very favorite spot of these. The Walmart supermarket shooting, the Uvalde shooting, things like that. But for the most part, and Texas is a huge place, people don't typically want to go and shoot up Texas because everybody's armed. In fact, I'm surprised Uvalde went as far as it did, because I can't believe there weren't 25 people on that street going into that school that could see a rifle and come back and say, pull out a .45 and say, hey, you, get the hell back here. I'm a little bit surprised by Texas on that one, because, you know, typically after you go after kids, especially in the same community that the parents are in, it becomes Swiss cheese before you get into the school, I would think. Typically. Not guaranteed, but typically. But I mean, what did we have? Aurora, another one in downtown Denver, the supermarket shooting, the theater shooting. I mean, these things keep happening in deep blue Colorado. Do you guys want to talk about something up there? I can't imagine you're that stressed out. You guys get to have legal weed. But, I mean, that's what's happening. And again, the mainstream media took this and dropped it off right away because this doesn't fit the narrative. Let's talk about Alvin Bragg for a little bit. From Politico. Unlawful. Manhattan DA stiff arms House GOP info request on Trump case. From Jordan Carney and Kyle Cheney. Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg's office on Thursday rejected as unlawful the demands of 3 House GOP chairs who sought sensitive details about his investigation of former President Trump. Leslie Dubeck, Bragg's general counsel, wrote to Judiciary Oversight and Admin Committee chairs Jim Jordan, Jim Comer, and Brian Stile in response to the request for an interview with Bragg, as well as a swath of documents. Good on Brian Stile, by the way, for getting a committee chair this early in his career. This is only his second term, by the way. I used to live in Brian Stile's district. As well as a swath of documents. Dubeck countered with the newly launched GOP probe is an unprecedented inquiry into a pending local prosecution, which is also in and of itself unprecedented. The letter came only after Donald Trump created a false expectation that he would be arrested the next day, and his lawyers reportedly urged you to intervene. Neither fact is a legitimate basis for congressional inquiry, she wrote in the letter, a copy of which was obtained by Politico. Her letter amounts to a sharp rebuke of a GOP inquiry launched days after Trump personally predicted his own imminent arrest, nudging House Republicans to rally behind him. Dubeck indicated that Bragg's office had adopted the Justice Department's long-standing position to refuse to provide Congress with details of ongoing criminal investigations, while also saying that the office would meet and confer with the lawmakers' aides to determine if any information could be shared. I'm going to take an unpopular position on this. Actually, I'm going to go in 2 different directions with this. Number one, I do have to say, good on the Manhattan DA's office. This may come as a shock from a lot of people, but good on the Manhattan DA's office. One of the cornerstones of our judiciary system is the fact that grand jury meetings are secret. And part of that is to make sure that the defense doesn't get access to unfair details while we're going into some of this stuff, but it also serves to protect the identities of people who are going into the process. Now, under a high-profile situation like Trump, where it's bringing the man and I'll find you the crime, it's a little bit of a different situation, but if that door is opened up to Trump, that door is opened up to you and me as well, which means that Congress can go back and subpoena any grand jury in the country and get the personal details of anybody who is facing any sort of criminal indictment. So, as far as the DA's office and the General Counsel's office, this actually was the right decision. With that being said, however, I was also informed, reliably, by many people who share the same letter after their nameism as Alvin Bragg, that it is immoral, unethical, possibly unlawful, and treasonous, insurrectionist possibly, to ignore a congressional subpoena. And I would love to see our legal scholars on the left go back and remind Alvin Bragg about that. Because, it wasn't that long ago they were saying that, hey, anybody who denies a congressional subpoena, Donald Trump not coming in to testify before the January 6th committee, anybody else, Mike Pence not coming in to testify in front of the January 6th committee, throw him in jail, lock him up, it's contempt of court, lock him up. Again, understanding why the Manhattan DA's office made the right decision, but still remembering the political of anybody who does this must instantly be put in prison. It's a tricky position to be in, but that's where we're at with that. The district attorney is obliged by the federal and state constitutions to protect the independence of state law enforcement functions. Also correct, by the way, from federal interference. The DA's office therefore requests an opportunity to meet and confer with committee staff to better understand what information the DA's office can provide that relates to legitimate legislative interest and can be shared consistent with the DA's constitutional obligations, Dubeck wrote. And really, honestly, at least Jordan and Comer should know better. Style because he's new to this, number one, and number two, I don't know that he did private practice beforehand. I know like nothing about Ryan's style. But I know Jordan and Comer should know better. They should. Would I like to have answers to this? Yes, but they won't come until, and I know that they won't come until after the grand jury proceeding is done and whether or not there is an indictment. So that is the right way to go about this. From the USA Today. I'm actually going to skip this one because this appears to be the same information that was in Politico. Let's go to the Hill. Let's jump down to this one. Bunch of people coming in here today too. Getting some numbers in here. Tell a friend. Bring one more person in here. Let's get some conversation going. Sully and Blindfair are going at it. Lou Dots in Texas. Like that. Marjorie Taylor Greene calls for Bragg's arrest for prosecutorial misconduct in Trump case, from Julia Shapiro. Representative Greene on Wednesday called for Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg to be arrested for prosecutorial misconduct, amid speculation that he's nearing an indictment of former President Trump for his alleged role in a 2016 hush money payment. Now it's time to arrest Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg for prosecutorial misconduct after hiding hundreds of pages of exculpatory evidence, Greene retweeted. Bragg is on the verge of indicting an innocent former president and top presidential candidate against the opposing ruling party. Bragg is breaking the law and trying to incite civil unrest with his Soros-funded political war, she added. Connecting the Manhattan DA to billionaire and popular Republican target George Soros. Hold him accountable. The Georgia Congresswoman similarly accused Bragg of breaking the law and called for him to be disbarred while speaking to reporters on Wednesday. Arrest him probably doesn't have a lot of legs. Disbar? That's possible. By using his office for a political leverage point and trying to advance a clear misdemeanor into a felony. But in order for something to be able to be brought forward by the people and put in front of a jury, the grand jury has to finish its work, and the findings of the grand jury have to be released, including knowing what evidence is put out there. Remember, grand juries are done in secret. So only Bragg, the grand jury, and the people who have submitted evidence know what evidence is in submission right now. So it's possible that there's prosecutorial misconduct, but we won't know until after the vote, essentially. Greene's claims the Manhattan DA withheld hundreds of pages of evidence appear to be a reference to comments made by Robert Costello, a former legal advisor to Cohen. So it'll be an interesting case to go, especially if we do see an arrest or possibility of a large amount of documents withheld. But, you know, this story is starting to slow. Rand Paul also get into it. Rand Paul calls for DA Alvin Bragg to be jailed for disgusting abuse of power in Trump probe. From Victor Nava. Rand Paul ripped into Alvin Bragg on Tuesday for his handling of his criminal investigation into Trump that might lead to former president being indicted. A Trump indictment would be a disgusting abuse of power. The DA should be put in jail, Paul wrote in a scathing tweet on Tuesday. Paul is the latest Republican to accuse Bragg of leading the politically motivated investigation into the 76-year-old former president, who was accused of directing a $130,000 hush money payment to Stormy Daniels in 2016 in exchange for her silence about the alleged 2006 affair. That's not what he's accused of. The accusation, and I want to remind everybody of that, the accusation is the fact that this was filed as a legal expense One, in fact, that this would have been a personal non-disclosure agreement. It doesn't even have anything to do with campaign finance. This is a business misfiling misdemeanor. Jim Jordan and Jim Comer wrote to the DA on Monday calling his plans to charge Trump an unprecedented abuse of prosecutorial authority. The two lawmakers stopped short of Paul's demand that Bragg be jailed, but asked the prosecutor to hand over documents and testify about what plainly appears to be a politically motivated prosecution of the ex-commander-in-chief. I think Paul, by the way, has some presidential ambitions. Just kind of seeing how he's reacting to this. I think there's a distinct possibility that he is looking to take the Oval Office at some point, or at least the Naval Observatory, possibly in this round. Because he himself can come in and, demand the arrest and the political prosecution of this, whereas, DeSantis comes back out and gives a bunch of lawyers speak and explains why he can't get involved in any of this. So, that is what we have with that. Again, I mean, what Rand is saying, what Marjorie is saying, these are, they're big accusations, but they're accusations that can't be investigated until the end of the grand jury probe. Until they're disbanded and the evidence is entered into record that they're looking at. So we can see what was put in and what was withheld. Let's talk Kari Lake, and I've actually got the Google page from trying to look up the Kari Lake story to show you what it is that the mainstream media is focused on. But first, we will listen to Kari herself.
They have built a house of cards here in Maricopa County. I think they're all wondering what I'm going to do. I'll tell you what, I'm not just going to knock that house of cards over. We're going to burn it to the ground. They have built a house of cards here in Maricopa County. I think they're all...
So, some bravado from Kari Lake, but some bravado that actually might be well-deserved. Let's read a little bit of what the Post-Millennial is reporting, because nobody else is reporting this. Breaking. Arizona Supreme Court reviews Kari Lake claim on signature verification. From no author given, Post-Millennial. The Arizona Supreme Court declined to hear the majority of Republican Kari Lake's appeal on Wednesday during a challenge to her loss in the governor's race, but kept the case alive by sending one of Lake's claims back to a lower court for review. Lake made 7 legal claims in her case, 6 of which of the state's highest courts said were properly dismissed by lower courts. However, according to an opinion released Wednesday, written by Chief Justice Robert Brutinel, the trial court erroneously dismissed Lake's claim, challenging the application of signature verification procedures on early ballots in Maricopa, and as a result sent the claim back to the lower court to reconsider. Lake lost to Democrat Katie Hobbs by just over 17,000 votes, but has contested the results. In her challenge, former TV anchor claimed that there were problems at the ballot printers at some polling locations in Maricopa, which is where over 60% of Arizona voters live. The ballots were printed too light to be read by the on-site tabulators at the polling locations, and as a result, lines backed up in some areas. Lake also alleged that thousands of ballots were injected into the election and that problems with the tabulation machines disenfranchised thousands of voters. Yeah, I'll do that later. Go ahead. County officials countered, claiming those at the locations had the opportunity to vote and that all the ballots were counted because the ones affected by the printer malfunctions were taken to a more sophisticated counter at election headquarters, far away from everybody else and far away from where anybody could see. According to the opinions by the state's high court, Lake's challenges were insufficient to warrant the requested relief under Arizona or federal law. However, Lake's sixth legal claim, alleging that Maricopa County did not follow signature verification procedures, was ordered to be reviewed by a county judge. According to the Arizona Republic, the county and appeals courts initially ruled Lake's signature-related challenge applied to the policies themselves, but not how the policies were applied in 2022, and dismissed her claim based on the grounds that she filed her legal challenge too late. But the state Supreme Court ruled Wednesday that there was an error in saying Lake could not have brought the challenge before the election. That's right, because she didn't have a grievance before the election. She wasn't an injured party until after the election. In her claim, Lake cited Arizona law requiring signatures on early ballot envelopes be checked against the signature already in the voter's file, and sets the process and timeline for verifying or curing the ballot if the signature doesn't appear to match. Lake claimed Maricopa County Recorder Stephen Richter's office accepted a material number of ballots with unmatched signatures. The High Court ordered a Maricopa County Superior Court Judge Peter Thompson to review the element of Lake's case again to determine if the claim was properly dismissed or previously, or if Lake can prove the votes were affected in sufficient numbers to alter the outcome of the election. Previously, the Arizona Court of Appeals ruled Lake's claims were demonstrated difficulties on Election Day, but that the lower court was correct in concluding that voters were able to cast their ballots, that votes were counted correctly, and that no other basis justifies setting aside the election results. Alright, before we go into and talk about what this means and what the mainstream media is doing with this versus what's actually happening, I do want to address something about the procedure, and it's the same thing that I've addressed about the presidential election as well. That was honk honk, totally fair, nothing bad happened, more votes than Barack Obama, most popular president in history, everybody got out to vote, everybody loves Biden, you know the drill on this point. And that is the fact that even if, and I don't know about Arizona's constitution, I've not read Arizona's constitution, I've read the U.S. Constitution, I've read the Wisconsin Constitution, I've not read Arizona's Constitution. So I don't know if there's a constitutional mechanism to overturn the results of an election if they are found to be improper. I don't know if Kari Lake can win the election, since Katie Hobbs went in and put her hand on the Bible and said, "I swear to uphold the laws and the Constitution of Arizona to the best of my ability, so help me God." It would be interesting for a legal scholar in Arizona to actually look into that and see if there's a mechanism in Arizona's Constitution to allow for that. And I don't know the answer. I don't know if that's yes or no. Randy Crush Saga coming in on the Twitch side. The side that pays me, by the way. Thank you, Randy Crush Saga, for that. I always love to see that little blue eye over on the... Because I get a different chat window than you guys do in your different things. I see this, so I can see the DLive or the YouTube. I can usually see your profile pictures on both sides. And the Twitch symbol as well. So, always love seeing the Twitch sign up there. Because they pay me. I like Bezos's platform. Because they pay me. You had muted the last time I had Twitch on. Oh, okay. Interesting. Mistakes happen. But welcome in. But yeah, as where I was going with that before. I don't know if Kari Lake can take over as governor. What I can say is that if it is found, no matter what, like I say, we could find out, and this is only in Minecraft, because this could never happen in real life. Joe Biden got 81 million legitimate votes with all the signatures matched and nothing bad happened, and he's the most popular president in history, and he's even more popular than Barack Obama. But in a simulation where that didn't happen, and in a simulation where, in a video game, where somebody could provably find that all 50 states were altered, that they all had problems, and in fact, all 50 states could be certified in a landslide for Trump. In that simulation, even then, if that could be found today, or even as far back as March of 2021, if that could have been found, even in that highly, incredibly, amazingly unlikely scenario, which is almost impossible because California exists, even in that highly unlikely scenario, if they could have found that in March of 2021, or today, or on election day of 2022, or anything else like that, there is no constitutional mechanism. As soon as Biden put his hand on the Bible and said, I swear to uphold the thing, man. I, Joseph Robinette Biden Jr., and to the best of my ability, so help me that God that I'm going to meet real soon. Okay. Am I senator again? I'm the president. What happened to the nice colored fellow that I used to work for? As soon as he did that, there was no constitutional mechanism for the results to be overturned. Now, if that were to be found, for whatever reason, it would put Joe Biden into an extremely lame duck position until the next time a presidential election could be held, and there actually may be a challenge to make a constitutional amendment to make a mechanism for that to happen, but for the most part, he would be a lame duck through the rest of his term, and probably ineligible to run the next time. That would also be a legal question to go forward with. But I'd be interested to see if there actually is a constitutional mechanism in Arizona to overturn the election if there is an evidence that it wasn't held in the way that it should have been. I don't know the answer to that. More from Kari Lake. Kari Lake says, they want to arrest me for exposing fraud in the 2022 election, which nothing bad happened, of course. Now the Arizona Supreme Court has ruled that the very fraud I highlighted has to be looked at. This is big, folks. And of course there was no fraud. Hit me with your best shots. I will never ever back down. Honk honk. Honk honk, most popular governor in Arizona history. Honk honk. With screenshots, top Arizona election official seeks campaign violation probe of Kari Lake. Kari Lake's chances of being indicted amid criminal referral in Arizona. It looks to me like it's a felony. Election expert says Kari Lake could face jail over tweet. Arizona's top election official demands probe into Kari Lake over published voter signatures. But here's how the rest of the MSM is looking at this. Not the fact that Kari Lake won the chance to have signature verification done, but Supreme Court rejects most of Kari Lake's election challenge. I thought they said top election denier somewhere. No, not that one. Those included claims that tens of thousands of ballots were injected into the election, which they called an undisputed fact in her lawsuit. But she lost on most of them. Arizona's Family 3, CBS 5. Arizona Supreme Court approves review of 1 of 7 election claims from Kari Lake. She lost 6. That means that she's a fraud and she's a fake and she needs to go to jail. 1 of 7. And even there, if we look through the Google search, there's nothing about signature verification, not even from controlled opposition Fox News. It's Arizona Supreme Court turns down Kari Lake's appeal in her election lawsuit. Not completely. Mostly rejected, 1 of 7, almost all, most but not all, most of, all, from Arizona Daily Star, declines most of. And Kari Lake responds to Supreme Court update, burn it all to the ground. So, they want to focus on what she lost. Not what she won. Alright. Some Biden stuff here. From Fox34.com, Biden creates national monuments, Marine sanctuary in the West. We're almost done with the main news. Like, we're well over halfway through the main news, and we've got things I like and things that I hate. We might get out of here early tonight, which is probably good, because I have not been sleeping real well, so I'm going to make a salad and probably go to bed shortly after that. Or maybe I'll just lay over on my couch and read. I don't know yet. But I don't know, I keep getting indigestion, massive indigestion. And it's like you can set your watch to it. It's at almost 1 p.m. every night, or 1 a.m. rather every night, and then it goes away by 2:30. Take care, Sully. Biden creates national monuments, Marine sanctuary in the West. From the Associated Press and Matthew Daly. President Biden said Tuesday he's establishing national monuments on more than 500,000 acres in Nevada and Texas and creating a marine sanctuary in U.S. waters near the Pacific remote islands southwest of Hawaii. The conservation measures are protecting the heart and soul of our national pride, Biden said. And this is, I'm going to be as objective as I can for this one, but do keep in mind, this is coming from somebody who doesn't believe that any federal land should exist, period. In fact, this seems a lot more like an attempt to make sure that there are places that can't be mined for things like uranium and oil. Speaking at a White House summit on conservation action, Biden saw the new monuments are among the natural treasures that define our identity as a nation. They're a birthright that we have to pass down to generation after generation. Biden designated Avi Kwa Ami, a desert mountain in southern Nevada, that the Native Americans considered sacred, as a national monument along with the Kastner Ridge in El Paso. He also moved to create a national marine sanctuary in U.S. waters around the Pacific remote islands. Conservation and travel groups praised Biden's actions, but Nevada's new Republican governor slammed the monument designation as federal confiscation of Nevada's land and a historic mistake that will cost Nevadans for generations to come. We'll be talking about that independently in just a moment. The Nevada site spans more than 500,000 acres and includes Spirit Mountain, a peak northwest of Laughlin called Avi Kwa Ami by the Fort Mojave tribe and listed on the National Register of Historic Places. The rugged landscape near the Arizona and California state lines is home to bighorn sheep, desert tortoises, and a large concentration of Joshua trees, some of which are more than 900 years old. In Texas, the Kastner Ridge Range designation will protect cultural, scientific, and historic objects, honor U.S. vets and tribal nations, and expand access to outdoor recreation on public lands, Biden said. Located on Fort Bliss, Kastner Ridge has served as training and testing site for U.S. Army during World War II, the Korean War, and the Vietnam War. The Army ceased training at the site and closed Kastner Ridge in 1966. So, that's what they seem to plan to do. But again, as mentioned, from the Daily Wire, Nevada Governor rips Biden for federal confiscation of over 500,000 acres, a historic mistake. From Tim Pierce. Joe Lombardo blasted Biden's creation of national monuments in Nevada on Tuesday. Biden used authority granted to the president under the Antiquities Act of 1906 to create two national monuments, one in Nevada and one in Texas, and he directed resources towards studying a possible marine national monument southwest of Hawaii. The two national monuments together impose a strict regulation on roughly 510,000 acres of land. The national monument, declared in Nevada, is by far the bigger of the two, itself covering 500,000 acres. Lombardo said the designation, made without his input, locks up land long planned for mineral development and other projects. What did I just tell you? Since I took office, the Biden White House has not consulted with my admin about any of the details of the proposed Ave Qua Ami National Monument, which given the size of the proposal seems badly out of step, the Republican governor told Fox News in a statement. Upon learning that the president was also considering unilateral action, I reached out to the White House to raise several concerns, citing the potential for terminal disruption of rare earth mineral mining projects, long-planned bipartisan economic development efforts, he continued. While I'm still waiting for a response, I'm not surprised. I want to look at something. Okay, so that's actually smaller than I thought it was going to be, because I don't know acreage that well. So I just looked up to see, kind of to give you an idea of how much this is, and that is just a little bit over half of Rhode Island that they're taking. So 988,000 acres is Rhode Island, which seems quite small when you put it up against a state like Nevada. And then also in Texas down here by the El Paso area. I mean, it seems minuscule, especially in Nevada, where there are huge amounts of resource development that could be done. And it's like, especially if you're going down to the south towards Arizona, in places like, you know, you've got Primm, Searchlight, Cal Navarre, Nelson, things like that. You're taking up a big chunk of the South Vegas map from Fallout New Vegas. Just to give you a quick idea, 500 acres encompasses roughly a quarter of the area that you can explore in Fallout New Vegas. So, something to consider about that. And I don't know exactly where this monument's going to be. Because I don't know enough about the geography there. But I know that's like, it's not insignificant amount of land that they're taking here that could be used, as they mentioned, for resource development, for minerals, for oil. But it's all federal land, and there's no new drilling on federal lands, so sorry, guys. All right. Let's do a little bit of a round of government officials behaving badly. And finish out with the last few things that we have. From the New York Post, Philadelphia, to pay pregnant women $1,000 per month. Solvable crisis. It unfortunately is not all pregnant women. But honestly, this would be a good way. This would be a thing that I like if this wasn't going to do equity stuff. If this was more equality than equity, then yes, I think it's extremely based to try to incentivize the next generation. I think that is extremely based. But that doesn't seem to be what they're doing here. From Janie Hers. Philadelphia officials announced Monday their fundraising to launch a trial program to give $1,000 monthly cash payments to expectant mothers who live in certain communities. The Philadelphia Department of Public Health aims to start the Philly Joy Bank pilot in early 2024 to help ease racial disparities in infant mortality rates. See, and again, this goes against equal protection under the law. Philadelphia has the highest infant mortality rate during a child's first year of life. In the 10 most populated U.S. cities, the city said. Infant mortality in Philadelphia is a solvable crisis, Health Commissioner Dr. Cheryl Bettigold declared in a statement. We know that being able to better support pregnant people and new parents helps keep babies alive as the poorest big city in the country. This is not always easy, especially in areas of the city that are being crushed by generational poverty and systemic racism. So, taxpayer money, not to expand and extend the next generation, but to expand and extend the next generation of a certain class of people. Blatantly and flagrantly against equal protection, number one. And number two, even, and again, as I said before, I am all in favor of expanding the next generation and incentivizing the next generation. But even if we were going to that direction under an equal protection under the law situation, where does the money come from? Show me the money. How much is this going to cost? How many people are going to get knocked up over this? So, that's what they say for that. Kyrsten Sinema in the news. Kyrsten Sinema shreds Democrats as ridiculous old dudes eating Jell-O, according to a report from Josh Christensen. Newly independent Arizona Senator Kyrsten Sinema has been dishing on her Democratic colleagues during fundraisers in the past year, referring to them as old dudes eating Jell-O, a report says. The centrist senator, who left the Democratic Party in December, has reportedly pandered to Republican lobbyists and donors at recent events, once earning uproarious laughter from her description of Democrats' ridiculous and dumb weekly caucus luncheons. Old dudes are eating Jell-O. Everyone's talking about how great they are, Sinema, 46, said earlier this year at a reception in D.C., according to Politico. I don't really need to be there for that. That's an hour and a half twice a week that I can get back. I think she means I can't get back. I spend my days doing productive work, which is why I've been able to lead every bipartisan vote that's happened over the last 2 years, she added. A spokeswoman for Sinema did not respond to a request for comment on the report. Sinema's departure complicated Democrats' legislative efforts as the party held a slim 51-49 majority in the Senate. They still do, by the way. Sinema continuously caucuses with the Democrats, so her being independent doesn't change almost anything. I'm not caucusing with Democrats. Bullshit. I'm formally aligned with Democrats for committee purposes, she also told the crowd of GOP lobbyists, but apart from that, I am not a part of the caucus. Bullshit. Fault lines between Sinema and Democrats began to show in fall of 2021 when President Biden negotiated with her and Manchin over his $3.5 trillion Build Back bullshit spending package. Manchin took credit for killing the highly expensive legislative push in December of 2021, even as he went on to vote for Biden's Inflation Production Act. And I think the big thing that I got to ask here is she says that she's leaving the caucus meetings to go back and do the important things like telling everybody how bad the caucus meetings are. California, a recent target of government officials behaving badly. California may punish oil companies for high gas prices. From Adam Beam. A first-in-the-nation bill to punish oil companies for the profiting from price spikes at the pump breezed through California Senate on Thursday at the urging of Democrat Governor Gavin Newsom, the first major vote in an effort to pass the law by month's end. Like, seriously, I thought that high gas prices were a good thing because it pushed people to go buy EVs. What the hell? What happened? The proposal is in response to sales last summer when the average price of a gallon in California soared to a record high $6.44. Drivers in some places paid as much as $8 a gallon, prompting widespread outrage in the election year. Yeah, like they were going to vote for anybody else in the places that hit $8. Newsom, a Democrat seen as a possible presidential candidate beyond 2024, reacted by attacking the oil industry, specifically the 5 companies that provide 97% of the gasoline to the state. He asked the Democratic-controlled state legislature to pass a new tax on oil companies' profits. Oh, so drive the price higher, you say, arguing it will protect consumers by preventing price spikes. That idea went nowhere in the legislature, as lawmakers feared it would create chaos in the petroleum market and cause companies to make less gasoline, thus increasing prices. Instead, lawmakers and Newsom settled on a bill that would let the California Energy Commission decide whether to impose civil penalties on oil companies for price gouging. Oh, so sue the oil companies to drive the prices up. The commission, a 5-member panel appointed by the governor, with the consent of the Senate, would rely on information from a new state agency that would have the power to monitor the market, including forcing companies to disclose financial information and having the power to subpoena oil executives to testify. So, more of the state getting involved in private industry. Isn't that special? In 10 years, the bill requires a state auditor to investigate the program to find out if it's working to reduce gas prices, which is stupid because it's supposed to be illegal in that state to buy a gas vehicle in 7 years. But lawmakers will have 6 months to review that decision and reverse it if they choose. So, well, good luck, Gavin. I'm sure this will work out well for you. Another one from ABC. Former lawmaker's wife sentenced in the theft of COVID-19 funds. From the Associated Press. I'm sure she took the fall for her husband. Or wife. It is Connecticut after all. The wife of a now former Connecticut state lawmaker was sentenced on Thursday to 6 months in federal prison in connection with her role in the alleged theft of federal coronavirus relief funds from the city of West Haven. Lauren DeMassa, one of several people arrested with former state rep Michael DeMassa in the investigation, had pleaded guilty to 1 count of wire fraud. Federal prosecutors say the city of West Haven paid Lauren DeMassa nearly $148,000 for services she never provided to the city. She and her husband were accused of submitting fraudulent invoices to the city for coronavirus-related services, including youth violence prevention, but instead they used the money for their own benefit, the prosecutors said. I'm embarrassed and appalled at my own actions, and I simply wish to pay my debts and live out a quiet life with my family, she wrote in a letter of apology to the judge. Now, she's embarrassed and appalled that she got caught. Her lawyer argued for a more lenient sentence, pointing out that DeMassa is 23 weeks pregnant. Omar Williams noted the child was conceived after DeMassa was arrested and knew she was facing prison time. He ordered that Lauren DeMassa to report to prison by May 23rd. He also sentenced her to serve 5 years of supervised release, the first 6 months of which must be spent in home confinement. She was also ordered to pay $147,776 in restitution. Good. And yes, I know that we always get the pregnancy sympathy vote out there, but good. Absolutely. The government creating its own program that it can go get rich off. I legitimately think she should have been in there for longer. 6 months was too late. Even for such a small amount being stolen, government officials and their spouses should have to face double, or I would say 10 times the prison time for stealing from the American public that a similar crime on the private sector would have caused. Because these people were elected to be better than the average person. They never are, but from the Daily Mail. Disney defies DeSantis by hosting the world's largest corporate LGBTQIRAMIGXTBYOLPQXTWRMCAIX, sometimes Y, conference sponsored by Apple, Walmart, and Amazon. After governor cracked down on the Magic Kingdom for slamming his Don't Say Gay law. From Keith Griffin and Emily Gooden, senior political reporter for DailyMail.com. The Walt Disney Company will host a major LGBTQIRAMITIXTBYOUTRAMITIXTBYOLPIXZ, sometimes Y, conference at its Florida resort later this year, clashing with Ron DeSantis on gay rights issues, including his so-called Don't Say Gay law that nobody has called except for propagandistic Democrats. The Out and Equal Workplace Summit, which bills itself as the largest LGBTQIRA, you get the picture, conference in the world, will be held at Disney World this September, after last year's event in Vegas. The conference expects to draw 5,000 attendees and is sponsored by a number of iconic American companies, including Apple, Amazon, Walmart, McDonald's, JP Morgan, and Boeing. Disney itself has a long-standing relationship with Out and Equal and is a top-tier sponsor of the group. The company did not immediately respond to a request for comment from Daily Mail on Wednesday evening. An Out and Equal spokesman told the Miami Herald that Disney World has also committed to hosting next year's event, which would be held in the final weeks of the 2024 presidential election. Though DeSantis has not announced a presidential bid, he is widely viewed as a top contender. Last month, at DeSantis' request, Florida's GOP-controlled legislature voted to dissolve a self-governing district controlled by Disney World, a move widely seen as punishment over Disney's opposition to its policies. And, by the way, as I've pointed out numerous times, got leftists to come back out and say that they approve of billionaires paying less in taxes. And setting their own tax code. And as far as the Don't Say Gay bill, there's nothing in it that says don't say gay. That is a left-wing propagandistic term for a bill that was aimed at keeping teachers from pushing sexually charged lesson planning to people under the age of 8. In fact, if the bill outlawed saying gay in Florida, my good friend John would probably be in prison right now because he uses that word like a comma, especially if he is disinterested in something. Don't say gay. Come on. Let's be realistic here. Alright, 2 more, and then we're actually done with the main news. Then we've got plenty of time for things I like and things that I hate. From NBC, actually both of our last 2 are from NPC News. Armed Russian jets have flown over a U.S. base in Syria nearly every day in March, U.S. commander says. Because, I mean, let's face it, we're going to war at some point here. From Courtney Kube, armed Russian jets have flown over a U.S. military garrison in Syria nearly every day in March, violating a 4-year agreement between the U.S. and Russia, risking escalation, according to the U.S. general in charge of the air operations in the region. Yeah, again, just like I said about the people getting called up to protest by Alvin Bragg, this is, hey, U.S. soldiers, down in Syria, no balls, you won't shoot, no balls. Lieutenant General Alexis Grinkowicz, Combined Forces Air Component Commander for U.S. Central Command, told NBC News on Wednesday that the most recent Russian overflight at Tanfik Garrison happened just a few hours earlier, and that Russian jets had violated airspace roughly 25 times so far this month, compared to 0 times in February and 14 in January. It's a substantial increase, he said, explaining that at this rate, they're on track to be double what it's been in the past. They're regularly flying directly overhead of our units, and I've defined directly overhead as within a mile, no more than a mile offset from one side to the other, while we've got forces right there on the ground at ATG, said Grinkowicz, so it's an uncomfortable situation. The Russian aircraft includes Su-34 jets. Some aircraft carry air-to-air weapons, and others carry air-to-ground munitions, Weapons include radar-guided and heat-seeking missiles and bombs. The disclosure comes in the wake of an incident over the Black Sea last week in which 2 Russian Su-27 fighters flew aggressively around a US MQ-9 Reaper, which is probably the reason they're doing this right now, because the Reaper flew into Russian airspace, or proclaimed Russian airspace, so Russia's finding US airspace to go and screw with. Well, I hope you guys enjoy war, because it appears to be coming. And the last one in the news. Jake Paul and Lindsay Lohan among a new batch of celebrities charged by SEC over crypto promotions. From Ua Ede Osipo. The SEC announced civil charges Wednesday against 8 celebrities alleging they illegally promoted cryptocurrencies, Tronix, and or BitTorrent, without disclosing that they were compensated for doing so and the amount of their compensation. They are actress Lindsay Lohan, YouTuber Jake Paul, and his tiny left nut, apparently. Adult film performer Michelle Mason, aka Kendra Lust, and musicians Aliune Thiam, or Akon, DeAndre Cortez Way, Soulja Boy, Austin Mahone, Miles Parks McCollum, Lil Yachty, which that one I've never heard of. The other ones I've heard of. And Shaffer Smith, or Neo. Most of the celebrities, excluding Soulja Boy and Mahone, agreed to pay over $400,000 in penalties and interest to settle the charges. The SEC said in its release, noting that the payment does not signal an acceptance or denial of the SEC's allegations. The SEC's complaint, filed in the U.S. District Court for Southern New York, also brought charges against crypto entrepreneur Justin Sun and 3 of his companies: Tron Foundation Limited, BitTorrent Foundation Limited, and Rainberry Incorporated. He was charged with securities fraud, accused of the unregulated offer and sale of securities, market manipulation through extensive wash trading, and orchestrating a scheme to pay celebrities to tout TRX and BTT without disclosing their compensation, the news release said, referring to Tronix and BitTorrent. Wash trading is a simultaneous purchase and sale of securities to create the appearance of active trading. The SEC alleges that Sun and his companies offered and sold Tronix and BitTorrent as investments through multiple unregistered bounty programs, which directed interested parties to promote the tokens on social media, join and recruit others in Tron-affiliated Telegram and Discord channels, and create BitTorrent accounts in exchange for TRX and BTT distributions. So, basically, they got paid to go and do a pump and dump and didn't disclose it. So, I don't know. I think this is going to be misdemeanor and fines, but still. Alright, that's all the news that I have for the day. 7:43. Let's do a few things that I like and a few things that I hate. One thing that I like, and this actually goes on with what happened in Denver, what we started the show with today, but I thought this was a great moment. I believe there's video of the moment. Yes, there is. Because this was a parent, not only a person who was reporting on Fox News about this, but a parent who had a child in the area. So, from The Blaze, Fox News reporter interrupts report on school shooting to reunite with her son in viral moment. From Carlos Garcia. A Fox News reporter interrupted her report on a school shooting in Denver to hug her son, who was a student at the school. Alicia Asuna was reporting Wednesday for Fox News at their Denver bureau on a school shooting at East High School. Asuna had a son, stepsons, and a niece at the school during the shooting, but she went on air after confirming they were all safe. While she broadcast live from the school, she saw her son. "Excuse me, my son just came up and I've not seen him," she said. "Come on, come up here," she said before hugging him. "I'm sorry, I've not seen my kid since this all went down." Acuna apologized for pausing her report, but she received universal acclaim and support for the emotional moment. Many of her colleagues praised her for her poise during such a difficult situation. And let's watch.
It's Sandra, that
Hold on. We're going to do something with the volumes here.
And Sandra, that is so encouraging to hear as a parent. Excuse me, my son just came up and I had not seen him. Come up here. So I'm sorry, I've not seen my kid since this all went down. So hey, just really, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Okay. I just finishing this real quick, okay? Okay, all right, okay. Are you good? Okay, I'm so sorry. There's no way you would have let your kid walk by.
Lucia, if you need to step aside, please do.
So, okay. He's okay. He's good. You good? Okay. He's good. But yeah, he's the one who was telling me what was happening. And my sister telling me what her daughter was telling her.
That's beautiful, man. That is amazing. I'm glad to see something like that. That does restore some of my faith in humanity. So, yes, of course, that belongs on things that I like. What else do we have? Things I like. YouTube getting trolled and, well, trying to cover their bases. Game Rant reporting through Microsoft Start. YouTube changes monetization policy after content creator makes YouTube into a swear word. From Zachary Grief. YouTube has recently changed its controversial policy on swearing in videos, and a big reason for this change is because one prominent content creator decided to make YouTube into a swear word to combat the issue. In November of 2022, the video platform made a change to its monetization restrictions, where videos had a decent amount of profanity in them, or even just one in the first 8 seconds of the video, would either be demonetized or be age restricted. YouTube decided to enforce this surprise policy change on content that predated the change. This affected YouTuber RT Game in a rather dramatic way, as he found many of his videos, including bigger contributions to the site like Best of 2022 compilation, be demonetized and age restricted without any warning to him and other content creators on YouTube. RT Game later had the brilliant idea to fight back by making the word YouTube into a swear word. RT Game's goal was to turn the word YouTube into a kind of the word the video platform's algorithms wouldn't know what to do with. As a swear, YouTube would either be an insult or a praise, depending on the context it was used in. It was a humorous way to fight back that RT Game's viewers happily went along with. Proceeding to call the situation a YouTube moment, or call the entire website a YouTube in the video comments. RT Game himself doubled down on his idea and edited out any swears to be replaced by YouTube on his more recent uploads after the policy change. RT Game has now uploaded a video saying that he helped the platform change the policy to be more creator friendly. These changes allow creators to swear in their content as long as they don't use any strong profanity within the first 7 seconds of the video. Along with saying other swears in moderation are fine for monetized video on YouTube. Following this addendum, the original restrictions many of RTG Game's videos have been reinstated. The content creator has thanked his fans for saying that if they hadn't gone with this idea and continued to talk about the problem, there's a high chance the problematic rules would still be in place today. Which is perfect and amazing, and seeing bigger creators coming back and fighting back for the rest of us. Now, I could do the same thing at this point, but it wouldn't have the impact as somebody like RT Game coming back and doing this as well. So, fantastic. You love to see it. Some more things that I like. These next two stories are less about me liking what's happening in them and more about the fact that this is actually, reality is becoming so much of a parody at this point. It's becoming so intensely parodical that these headlines read like a bad movie plot. 2 inmates who escaped from a jail found a nearby IHOP, sheriff's office said. From Courtney Wheel. 2 inmates who managed to escape from a Virginia jail were apprehended hours later at a nearby IHOP, reports said. John Garza, 37, and Arlie Nemo, 43, were first discovered missing from the Newport News jail during a regular head count at 7:15 p.m. Monday. A report from the City of Newport News Sheriff's Office claimed that the two men had escaped early in the afternoon by exploiting a construction design weakness in the building and chiseling a hole into the wall using primitive-made tools constructed from a toothbrush and a metal object. Once the men had access to untied rebars between the walls, they used those rebars to further the escape. They passed through the hole in the wall to the outside, where they then scaled the containment wall to freedom, the report claimed. It wasn't a metal object, it was a spoon. They used a spoon from the dining hall to dig their way out, like a bad cartoon from the 50s and 60s. They dug their way out of prison with a damn spoon. Like, legitimately. And yeah, they used rebar after the fact, but they used a spoon to dig their way out of the prison. Bugs Bunny could not be reached for comment. Their freedom, of course, short-lived, because they were picked back up immediately, but man, they used a spoon. I'm serious, I'm telling you, this is... And while we get back into the political side of things with this one here, on top of this, Hunter Biden used FBI mole named One Eye to tip him off to China probes, according to a tipster. You can't make this up. You know, I watch Bridget Fettisy's news channel pretty much every week because it's entertaining. I like Bridget, not just because she's got a giant rack, but she's actually somewhat funny. But one of the lines that they always use on the show is that when reality becomes a parody, that's a Fettisy. And it is. This is a Fettisy by that definition. Opinion from Miranda Devine. Hunter Biden used FBI mole named One Eye to tip him off to China probes. Yes, this is a serious news story. Hunter Biden had an FBI mole named One Eye, who tipped off his Chinese business partners as they were under investigation. According to an Israeli energy expert arrested in Cyprus last month on gun running charges. Now, did this One Eye, did he take a shoe off and throw it at somebody, or a hat? Was he an expert in martial arts but only talked in like, seriously? Can we have real news? Can we have reality, please? The House Oversight Committee is investigating the explosive claims by Dr. Gal Luft, a former Israel Defense Forces lieutenant colonel with deep intelligence ties to Washington and Beijing, who says he was arrested to stop him from revealing what he knows about the Biden family and FBI corruption. Details he told the Department of Justice in 2019, which he says it ignored. The DOJ is trying to bury me to protect Joe, Jim, and Hunter Biden. So says me, One Eye. And the last one I like before we do a couple things that I hate comes to us again from The Blaze. GOP senator embarrasses Biden judicial nominee with basic legal question that every first-year law student knows, from Chris Enlow. John Kennedy stumped yet another Biden judicial nominee on Wednesday with a basic legal question. During a Senate Judiciary Committee hearing for several judicial nominations, including U.S. Magistrate Judge S. Cato Cruz's nomination to serve as U.S. District Court Judge, Kennedy asked Cruz an elementary question about evidentiary discovery. Tell me how he analyzed a Brady motion, Kennedy asked Cruz, which we'll be watching this in just a minute. But let's read about what this is. In a Brady motion, a defendant compels prosecutors in a criminal case to turn over potentially exculpatory evidence. That is, evidence that would help prove the innocence for the defendant. The fundamental legal procedure was established in the landmark Supreme Court case Brady v. Maryland. Despite having served as a federal magistrate judge, Cruz was unable to answer the question. Let's watch.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Judge, Counselor, congratulations. I want to be sure I understand your records. We'll start with Judge Cruz. Judge Cruz, you handled a case called ViaNet Operating Group v. Maurice. Is that right?
That's correct, Senator.
And you were reversed in that case. Is that right?
Yes, Senator.
You handled a case called Moodin v. University of Colorado. Is that right?
I believe so, Senator, yes.
And you were reversed in that case, right?
I believe a portion of my recommendation was reversed, yes.
Okay. Did you handle a case called Vreeland v. Vigil?
Yes, Senator.
And you were reversed in that case too?
A portion of that was reversed as well, yes.
Okay. Did you handle a case called Vreeland v. Olson?
Yes, Senator.
And were you reversed in that case too?
A portion of that was reversed as well, yes.
Okay. You handled a case called Key Bank National Association v. Williams. Is that right?
Yes, Senator.
Were you reversed in that case?
Senator, I've issued over 1,500 recommendations and orders over the course of my 4 years on the bench, and that is one that was partially reversed, yes.
Okay. You handled a case called Renault v. Cardenas. Do you remember that case?
Yes, Senator.
And you were reversed in that case too?
A portion of that was reversed as well.
Do you remember a case?
A portion of that was reversed as well, Senator. The name is familiar, Senator.
Schwartz v. City of Denver.
The name is familiar, Senator. For all the cases I've handled, I'm not recalling particulars about that.
Okay. Do you remember being reversed in that case? It's called Lucas v.
Senator, I don't recall offhand at the moment with that case.
Do you remember a case called Brooks v.
Offhand, if that was one.
v. United States?
Okay, so I don't see where that was in the video. I should have queued that one up before I went to. I thought it was just going to be straight to it because usually the Blaze is good at queuing stuff up. But we can read the play-by-play because they put it up here. Let's see. How I analyze a Brady motion, Senator. I'm 4.5 years on the bench. I don't believe I've had the occasion to address a Brady motion in my career, he said. Do you know what a Brady motion is? Kennedy followed up. Senator, in my time on the bench, I've not had an occasion to address that, so it's not coming to mind at this moment what a Brady motion is. The Republican senator then asked Cruz if he was aware of Brady versus Maryland. Cruz confirmed that he was aware of the case and then said, quite shockingly, that the case addressed Second Amendment rights. I believe the Brady case involved something regarding the Second Amendment, Cruz responded. I have not had the occasion to address that. If that issue were to come before me, I would certainly analyze that Supreme Court precedent and apply it. I would need to know the facts in front of me. Kennedy did not follow up with another question. Instead, he allowed Cruz's wildly incorrect answer to hang in the air for good rhetorical effect. Senator Cruz responded to the embarrassing moment by noting that every first-year law school student could have answered the question or would have flunked criminal law class. Wow, this is basic criminal procedure. If a first-year law student gave this answer, he or she would flunk the criminal law. But the Biden White House would then try to make you a federal judge. Yeah, that's kind of an important one. And again, the unfortunate side of this is that the Biden admin believes that we have to have a certain number of people with a certain number of color of skin, a certain number of people with a certain amount of genitals or genital change in their pants, or a certain shape of eye, for equity purposes. Not because they're actually good at their jobs, clearly, in the case of Cruz, but because they look the part. So, and good on John Kennedy for poking holes straight through that. Now let's do a couple of things that I hate. From the New York Post today, Boston radio host appears to use ethnic slur involving Mina Keanes. From Ryan Glass-Beagle, a sports talk radio host in WEEI Boston is in hot water after appearing to invoke a racial slur about ESPN personality Mina Keanes. In a conversation on the Greg Hill Show about their 5 favorite nips, show personality Courtney Cox suggested the prompt with Boston City Councilor Ricardo Arroyo seeking to outlaw the small bottles of alcohol in the city because of how frequently they're littered. Chris Curtis interjected Mina Keanes. Nip is an ethnic slur against Japanese people, referring to the shortened version of Nippon, which is the Japanese name for the country, which means that it's shortened for Nipponese, which means that it's not a slur at all. And number two, if it is a slur, I have never ever heard that used for Japanese people. I've heard, maybe I shouldn't go through that list. It's funny on a Clerks movie, but yeah, that's not going to fly on YouTube. We're not going to go down that list. In fact, we're not going to do that one. But we can listen to the clip.
It begs the question, top 5 nips.
Oh, yes. That's a great one.
Because Dr. McGillicuddy's, I think, is number 1 or 2. Screwball also up there.
I'd probably go Mina Kimes.
And Fireball.
Fireball.
I'm not taking a tequila.
You're right about the McGillicuddy, though, but do you like the purple or the root beer?
Now, see, I wouldn't have got that. I wouldn't have caught that. And one thing that I have noted, and I noted on somebody commenting on this, I have, in the 2 years that I lived in the Boston Metro, I heard more anti-black racist jokes in those 2 years than I heard in 36 years combined of living in Wisconsin. Just so you know. If a Boston on-air personality is going to be using a racial slur that starts with an N and ends with an S, it's not going to be nips. I'm just saying that right off the bat from my experience in living in that area. But since they can't pronounce the letter R at the end of a word, it's probably good, because they don't go hard R. Because they can't go hard R. Another thing that I hate today. From the Daily Wire, Mean Girls original writer considers suing Tina Fey despite signing away rights, demands equity. From Amanda Harding. The writer, who penned the original novel upon which Mean Girls is based, is considering legal action against Tina Fey and Paramount over unpaid dues. Rosalind Wiseman wrote the book Queen Bees and Wannabes in 2002 for parents to help them understand their teenage girls. The book became the basis of the cult classic comedy Mean Girls, which is probably one of my favorite movies. Starring Lindsay Lohan, the film version was written by Faye. And also, unpopular opinion, I actually enjoyed the sequel too. It was catty and funny, but in a different way. Plus, Meghan Markle's kind of a goddess. Oops, did I say that out loud? Wiseman sold the film rights in 2002 for $400,000, and in doing so relinquished all rights to the original motion picture and derivative works, including musicals and TV shows. The movie was adapted into a Broadway musical. The author's contract promised she would receive a net profit based on box office performance, but now Wiseman claims the studio hasn't paid for her any claiming they have no profits due to extra costs. Mean Girls was a surprise hit at the box office, bringing in $130 million worldwide, following its release on a $17 million production budget because it was actually a good movie. It was one of the last really good comedy movies that Hollywood put out. Honestly, from 2005 on, things just started becoming somewhat mediocre, with a few exceptions. Zombieland was an out-of-nowhere hit. I like that one. Wiseman discussed her feelings about the situation during an interview with the New York Post published over the weekend. She mentioned how Mean Girls has changed our culture and changed the zeitgeist due to massive popularity. Yes, I had a terrible contract, terrible. But the movie has made so much money and they keep recycling my work over and over again. So to not even consider me, the author said, mentioning how the hypocrisy is too much. Over the years, Tina's spoken so eloquently about women supporting other women, but it's gotten increasingly clear to me that in my own personal experience, that's not going to be the experience, she continued. Yeah, as much as I like that movie, I think that Tina Fey really should pay up, honestly, for at least some of the derivative work off of that. Now, this also noting the fact that Queen Bees and Wannabes is not a novel, as is written into the Daily Wire. I looked into buying Queen Bees and Wannabes because I wanted to see the source material for Mean Girls because I like the movie so much. It's a self-help book. It's nonfiction. It's not actually a novel. Yes, there's some entertaining tidbits about it, but the narrative performance of Mean Girls is entirely the production of Tina Fey, while using some of the psychology, and yes, there is a bit of the humor that's involved from trying to help parents understand their teen girls that's put into this. But for the 95% of the narrative position of this it's a work of Tina Fey, and it's a masterpiece. I'm man enough to admit I like Tina Fey's work. I do. So yes, should Tina give some more to Rosalind? Yeah, probably. Is it worth having half or a major amount like Rosalind is demanding? Probably not. You guys knew this one was coming. From the Daily Wire. Death of the muscle car. Dodge reveals final gas-powered Challenger as company shifts to EV production. From Zach Jewell. Dodge introduced the latest and final version of its Challenger on Monday, as the carmaker shifts from wowing drivers with the iconic gas-powered muscle cars to producing EVs. The 2023 Challenger SRT Demon will be the last V8 car that Stellantis, which owns Dodge, will produce, and will also be its most powerful, CNBC reported. The new Challenger will boast a 6.2-liter supercharged V8 with 1,025 horsepower and 945 foot-pounds of torque, ripping to 60 miles an hour in 1.66, making it the fastest production car in the world, according to Dodge. Not quite. Let's watch. A little bit. Is there no audio? Does this video have no audio? I have the audio up on the tab. Oh, there we go. So that's the demon. Dodge announced last summer it would begin to transition away from gas-powered vehicles and towards EVs by the end of the year due to strict government emissions regulations. CNBC reported that Dodge's parent company, Stellantis, formerly known as Fiat Chrysler, ranks at the bottom among U.S. car manufacturers for fuel economy and carbon emissions. Dodge said goodbye to the muscle cars that helped give the company a name, selling even 7 special edition Dodge models, the last of which is the 2023 Challenger SRT Demon. The SRT Demon will hit the market at $96,666, but could cost up to $120,000 once fees and options and accessories are factored in. $120,000 for a car. I can't believe it. Dodge CEO Tim Kuniskis was brutally honest about the car's fuel economy, calling it horrible. But he later said the SRT would be eco-friendly because of a run on E85 ethanol blend fuel. That makes your fuel economy worse, dude. Because of the immense power the SRT Demon produces and its rear wheels, the car will be capable of popping wheelies, CNBC reported. Kuniskis said that while making the car, engineers were blowing up engines as they tried to get the best possible performance, resulting in the SRT Demon's reveal being pushed back. There are a few things about the automotive industry that I really wonder, honestly, at this point. Especially with American automakers, and the big one, and I was looking through the Ford website one day, and then I looked at the Dodge website, and the GM website, and my first question is, whatever happened to cars? Like, seriously, there is no car. There's no car anymore. It's all a crossover SUV. You get a pickup, and in some cases a full-frame SUV like a Suburban. But everything else, like there is no car. There's nothing. Everything is turned over into basically a minivan, a crossover. The foreign automakers are still making cars. So, like, seriously, whatever happened to cars? We actually have to say goodbye to the Instagram audience here because I just got the low battery warning on my phone, which is fine because I didn't charge it before this. So we'll go back and we will do this a little bit later, where I'll go and share everything out to the Instagram side for replay. But and then the other side of this is the fact that, yes, on top of the fact that we've lost the automotive industry, the cars, they're not going to do a gas-powered vehicle anymore. It's all going to be electric. Now, I am not like most anti-electric people. Like, I would not own an electric vehicle, but I don't begrudge other people that want to own them. I think that should be your personal choice. I think a lot of things should be your personal choice. If you want to own a gas vehicle, own a gas vehicle. If you want to own an electric, own an electric. That should be your choice. The automakers shouldn't be making that choice for you. And yet, here we are. And the last thing that I hate today, the Dixie Chicks. Or, I'm sorry, the Chicks. Because we can't put Dixie in any goddamn thing anymore. Country music star Maren Morris dares Tennessee to fucking arrest her for bringing a 2-year-old son to meet a room full of drag queens. From Paul Saka. Is this what I think it is? No, Maren Morris isn't one of the Dixie Chicks. She's just an independent artist, right? I thought I'd heard something about the Dixie Chicks earlier on this. No, she's not a Dixie Chick. I got that wrong. I did. She's way too young to be a Dixie Chick. She was born in 1990. The Dixie Chicks are older than I am. Because they came out in, what the hell year did they come out in? 95, 96, and they were already adults at that point. I mean, I was busy being 11, so okay. I got that wrong. That was on me. But regardless, still a thing I hate. Country star Maren Morris dared the state of Tennessee to arrest her for bringing her 2-year-old to meet a room full of drag queens. The defiant action was in response to new legislation in Tennessee that bans drag shows near schools and public property. Bill Lee signed the Senate Bill 3 into law earlier this month. The legislation protects children from adult cabaret performances, which includes drag shows. The new law bans adult cabaret performances from being conducted on public property, near schools, or in any location that could be viewed by children. Morris lashed out at the new Tennessee law by daring the state to arrest her. On Monday, Morris and other musicians such as Haley Williams of Paramore, Sheryl Crow, and Hozier performed with Tennessee drag queens to protest the new law, protecting the children from adult-themed shows. During the Love Rising event earlier this week, Morris talked about introducing her 2-year-old son to drag queens. I brought my son here earlier today for sound check, and he's turning 3 this week. And we got to go up in the room where all the queens were getting ready and doing their makeup. Morris told the audience on Monday. And he freaked out when he went there because it's just magic what drag queens do, Morris added. There's wigs everywhere, and the smell of hairspray and wig glue, and there's glitter, and everyone's in a good mood. It's just like a room full of love. Of men doing minstrel show of women. Morris claimed, and then we went back to my dressing room. My son is like, I need the queens. I'm like, you're looking at her. Yes, I introduced my son to some drag queens today, so Tennessee, arrest me, Morris declared. Fox News reported the country singer, famous for her songs like The Middle, also revealed in an Instagram story from Tuesday that she asked her stylist to put her in a suit on purpose to demonstrate the subjectivity of drag and gender expression. There's a reason we feel powerful in a suit, but why? Is it our tinges of both the feminine and masculine being on public display, or is it just more comfortable than a dress? Or is it just hot and makes you feel like a damn superhero? Well, that's an explicitly sexualized dress. So, never meet your heroes, by the way. Because I enjoy the music of Sheryl Crow and Haley Williams. I do. I like Paramore. But I still don't think that adult males doing a minstrel show of feminism belong anywhere near kids. I never have. But this is the latest ploy to get people out there to say things like this so it can get clipped as hate speech. And say, you're against the transgender movement, even though this has nothing to do with transsexuality. But that's the end of my soapbox. Let's head out of here for the day. Weird show tonight. Obviously a weird one, but things I like and things that I hate are always weird. Let's throw some outro music up and head out of here for the day. Long one, too, tonight. Alright, so thanks everybody who came by, watched the replay, watched the live chat, watched the live show, and is going out and telling some other people to get in here for the next time. We'll be back here tomorrow to talk about more news and more headlines and see what happens in the next 22 hours of news. It's going to be a weird time, I think, honestly, with Carrie Lake now surfacing on the news. We'll see what happens with the signature verification. Possibly not tomorrow, but sometime within the next few weeks, we'll see what happens with that, and if there is a provision for Carrie Lake to ascend to the throne of Arizona royalty. We'll see what happens with that. We'll probably see what happens in the Trump case, even though that's been dismissed for the rest of the week. We'll see what happens with the shooting over in Colorado, and if that takes hold anywhere, or a host of any other things that happen. Anything could happen in the next 22 hours. So, pack yourselves in, get some dinner, sit tight, and we will see you here next time for more news, more headlines, and more contemporary. And until then, I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Take care.